And finally, since I'm sort of taking over the meeting, not intentionally. Sorry, Andrew. If you want me to order a banner, could somebody please send me the high-res Koa logo?
Yeah.
Jason, do you still have them?
I think they're in the organizational Google Drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not.
Yeah, that's where I remember them being last time I needed to reference them.
What
Okay.
happened to the banner? Don't we have a banner?
We've got a nice standy uppy banner. We were
Okay.
discussing also a like tableclothy banner.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I envision it as 2 feet by 3 feet, but for about $50, I think. Made of fabric, which is a lot easier to transport. I'm just waiting for the go-ahead and the graphics. And now I'll be quiet.
And does Fred have the stand-up one, or am I bringing it?
Christopher does, and he is going to send it to Jesse.
Or unless
Oh,
you still have it, Georgette. I thought
Just to be
I
clear,
can grab it from Christopher. We're just across the border from him, and I can bring it, save it some shipping. I did
Kind
that
of
last year.
large.
to be clear, we're talking about the ALA annual meeting at the
Yeah.
end of June,
Yes.
not the koha-US meeting.
Correct.
Yeah, the Koha one, I'll bring it with Koha. I'm not going to ALA. That's what I was talking about, is where will it be?
Mm.
Will it be here, or will it be at ALA?
It's gonna go to ALA with Fred. Well, more
Okay, then
specifically, it's gonna go to ALA with Jesse and then hang out at ALA with Fred.
gotcha. Then you can bring it to the. That's what we were
But-
trying to figure out. Originally, I was supposed to get it from Christopher. So
And
I'll
I
let
don't
you
think
pick.
I'll be able to take the standy epi banner with me because it's cumbersome.
Mhm.
So I hope
I bet,
Jesse can take care of it.
I bet if we play our cards right, somebody from Ocean State can take it back to Maryland with them when they not Maryland. Why do I keep doing this, people? Rhode Island. What are all those East Coast states?
They're all small and they all look alike. Don't worry.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got a meeting to have. Fred, I will find you a logo and we'll sort that out.
Okay, thank you. And I hope everything else is okay that I've planned.
Yeah, great. George, when you find Providence, Maryland, let us know.
He could find Providence in Maryland.
There might be one. That seems possible.
Not me, no.
And Fred, thank you for doing the work that you've done in preparation and support of your manning things at ALA for this unexpected privilege we get of being able to sit in the exhibit hall again.
I hope it's going to be fun, and I hope I'll arrive home ready to do something other than just go right to sleep.
It worked out really well in 2022, and you were a huge part of that success.
Well, with my characteristic organizational skills, I now call this meeting to order. We're doing a meeting. Christy raised the specter of new people, which is always exciting. So if you're a new people, welcome to the koha-US monthly general meeting. Open to anybody who wants to be here, although if you're not somehow related to Koha, I don't know how much you're going to get out of it. I am Andrew. I'm the president currently, and I'm running this meeting. We have an agenda. It's in the chat. It's pretty sparse. The first thing on our agenda is announcements. And I just added an announcement of, hey, Fred's going to go to the ALA conference for us. Bywater Solutions had a larger booth than they expected this year. And so they offered us a table at that booth for freebies. So that's nice. We figured we may as well take them up on it. They were nice enough to also get Fred an exhibitor's badge and cover some travel expenses. So huzzah. Thank you for resharing the agenda. So if you're at ALA, wander by the Bywater booth and say hi to Fred. I
And
bet.
Many
I'm like,
people are going. Hey, John, I know you are.
I'll be there. So I can help out at the booth a bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you really want extra credit, ask Fred if he wants to go to the bathroom while you sit at the booth for a minute.
Yeah.
Yes. I'd
Mhm.
also like to see the other exhibits.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll be there.
we will make sure you have ample opportunity to do that, Fred.
Mhm.
But it looks like I'm going to miss the mad scramble for the free books. Well, I don't think I could carry them
You want
anyway.
nothing to do with that. It gets worse every year, and I don't even think that's possible, but it does.
Well, and whatever the cool tote bag is this year, we'll see.
I'm still torn about them handing out Magic the Gathering cards at the badge pickup area, but well, the look on your face, Andrew, just
I never
really
got a
said
Magic the Gathering card. Oh, dang. All right, I think that moves us on to our next announcement. Koha 2505 has been released. Hooray! We've got one like bug in the open time area that I think it's also probably worth looping back around to things that are exciting or ominous or what have you in 2505. Find out what folks are looking forward to.
I haven't seen it yet, so I need to see what all is coming. But I know that the last upgrade really messed things, or the last release really messed things up badly. So I'm hoping it doesn't do that this time.
What did the last one do badly?
Oh my gosh, there was all sorts of things. Colors were off. Um, gosh, I don't even remember, but it seemed like we had a month of just constant problems. Holds weren't triggering and colors were off. You couldn't see where it said, incomplete return, and it just seemed like there was, and I'm not the only one who noticed it. I talked to some other people who noticed it as well, and there were some major frustration for at least a good month or so.
Have they been patched?
But yeah,
Okay.
it's been fine now.
Just wondering if I should upgrade.
Well, I think some of the colors were off issues were issues that your custom code broke.
Could
Yeah.
have, yeah.
Yeah.
So
but we
that
had
you can
other,
blame that all on Christopher since he's not
okay,
here.
okay. But we had other issues. I mean, it just seemed like nothing was working. Checkout wasn't working properly. Check-in wasn't working. The holds weren't triggering. The receipts weren't printing. I mean, it just kind of kept adding up and adding up. And finally, that was the first time in a long time we had a release that really frustrated me and gave me gray hair.
We'll see how this one goes. That seems like a facile response.
Yeah.
I have a
No,
question.
I mean, like I said, it was the first time in a long time, so I don't know what happened, but
I have a question. We talked about in one of the meetings recently, I think it may have been in acquisitions or catalog, I don't remember. But anyway, we talked about Koha being slower.
yeah.
And then Ian's message came out about the changing everything from the .com to the IO and all that sort of stuff. That's a little further in the weeds than I'm comfortable with, and his instructions were very techy, and so I responded back to the ticket and it's been crickets. And so I've understood that others have had the same lack of response. Does anybody have any insights as far as what's going on? How are further instructions going to be sent? Etc. Some have said just change the .com to IO, and some have said that doesn't work and you have to go do other things. I know George, you and Jason helped with that in one of the meetings we were talking about this. So I'm just have a question and a concern.
I did. Jason and I both almost simultaneously posted a link to Bywater's FAQ about the update. And they sent that out, I guess, on the Bywater Koha Partners Slack. So I don't know what else to say about that. I can't answer questions for Bywater, but that was one of their ways of communicating. If that didn't get to you, that is more of an issue with their communication too.
It may have gotten to me. It may have just been one more thing that I needed to look at and read and just haven't had a chance to digest it yet and forgot that it was there. Thanks for reposting the link. I've pulled it up and we'll go through after this meeting.
If it were bots attacking, would the system load be higher? And then,
That
because
is
mine,
more or less what all of us have been experiencing.
yeah, because when I go into the console, it's not really being overworked.
Well, maybe yours isn't.
Oh, ours is really slow though. And it looks like I'm gonna have to do more checking.
We
Yeah.
have slowness on and off.
I feel like I should put on my Bywater hat to respond to this, but this is so outside of my bailiwick. Like, I'm not a systems person at all. I understand the general concept of there were bots there and Bywater is stopping him. And that's about all I got. I could speak, Wally, to your general like frustration with communication, and I don't want you to be there. And my general Bywater advice is make noise in as many avenues as you need to, because we all want to help you. This has been a rather large project, is my understanding, again, kind of from the sidelines, looking over across Zoom at Brian being very busy.
Yeah, and I'm not complaining per se. I just want to make sure that something's not going to get turned off and I'm not caught up yet. And then we're in panic mode. So as long as things are going simultaneously and making sure that everybody is where they need to be before the old system is shut down or whatever, I'm fine with that. My concern is I don't want any of us to be having supposedly done something that may be out of our expertise, out of our bailiwick, as you just said. And then we're scrambling because all of a sudden something isn't working. So as long as we're okay with that, and whatever, it can take till Christmas. It doesn't bother me. I just want to make sure some of us are not as deep in the weeds as as a lot of people are, don't get caught off guard not having what we need to have to function.
Yeah.
I can speak to our experience because we're behind Cloudflare now. Not a techie person. I mean, network stuff, don't know that much about it. What I did was I asked Bywater to send me all of the SIP connections that we have. And so we went through, between Gita and I, we went through all of those and had them update to the IO. And Bywater, checked in with us multiple times. How's it going? That with that stuff. And then we did switch, and share it broke. And they discovered the problem. So all the rest of you Texas libraries can thank us, because you won't run into that problem. And there was an issue with Aspen. People couldn't renew their items. Again, they figured out that problem. Everybody else is not going to run into it because of that. So we had phone numbers for people, they were watching us, they were walking through it with us. it was a very positive experience for us. So just to let our experience, that's what happened for us.
Round Rock, you rock.
Yeah. Thanks for finding all those holes.
I just want to say that our experience was the same as Rhonda's. We're behind Cloudflare now. We had some issues with our self-check machines. Some are Biblioteca and some are Envisionware. And when we first tried it, it didn't work out, and those were getting disconnected. But then immediately Bywater switched us back, and we took a little extra time, like maybe a week or so, to they worked through on their end. We worked through a little bit on our end. Had our libraries turned back to the .com from the .io, but then went back to .io again. So it was a little, it sounds a lot worse than it is. It's just going into the setting of the self-check machine and changing the .com to .io. And we also did that for our PC reservation management consoles on for all of our libraries that use that for authentication. And once we finally switched it that last time, it's been much more stable since in every aspect. So.
Is there a problem with both kinds of your self-checks? Was it both the Envisionware and Biblioteca, or was it one or the other?
It was both. And we're actually still seeing some issues with self-checks. One of our libraries has had a problem for months with their self-check. They have 3 bibliotecas. But when we're looking at our logs, we're seeing this, it's dropping across our whole everything at the same time. It's not only the self-checks that are Biblioteca, it sounds like it's something, and actually Adam, who works with me, I don't think he's on the call. He just discovered this, I think like yesterday or the day before. So that's the next thing we're going to talk to Bywater about, is because we're thinking that the Envisionware self-checks seem to not be as affected. They don't show symptoms when they drop, whereas the bibliotecas do. So it is happening to all of them, but the Envisionware ones don't seem to mind.
Good to
So
know.
Andrew,
Thank you.
if you're picking up on any of this and you want to pass it along, feel free. I'm sorry?
I said that's good to know. Thank you. We have
You're welcome.
Biblioteca self-checks here. Are you supported by Biblioteca, or?
So the library that has the worst problems, because we're a consortium, each library does their own thing, but the library that's been having the major problems is supported by Biblioteca. However, Biblioteca was all gung-ho at the beginning to try to fix things, and now they're just not responding at all. So we've been having a lot of issues with them.
Thank you. It's good to have that on my radar.
From Plum Creek, we also are now behind Cloudflare, and we did lose Koha right after the migration behind Cloudflare. We were down for about half an hour. Bywater jumped in and got it up and running. And then we also lost access to Reshare, which is our statewide interlibrary loan system. That took most of Friday to get up and running again, but they were on top of it. It was very responsive. It was just a process to get going again.
This is me going slowly in case other people want to chime in with Cloudflare thoughts.
So for the people that are behind Cloudflare already, how long has it been since that implementation?
We went on May 22nd and have not had any of the almost daily problems that we were having before then.
For us, it's been about a week. And we were getting about, well, I've got a sheet here for a half hour. It shows traffic for a half hour, and right after they installed Cloudflare, we were getting 974 hits to our server. And of those, 534 were getting blocked. So over half of the hits to our server were getting blocked by Cloudflare. So that was really helping our turnaround.
Plum Creek went last Friday. And as Elizabeth said, we had some connection problems, but overall it was a fairly smooth transition.
Those of you that you said you had some connection problems once you went over, were those ones you had already thought you had fixed with the change to .io and then it still didn't work, or?
Yeah, it was mostly connections to our state library system. That took most of Friday for them to troubleshoot that and get everything working again. But we had followed their instructions in their email, but it took a little bit more than that.
Was entirely with our Z3950 connection. And it was the state library services, and then we use it for to connect with our cataloging too. So those were the two that were down all of Friday, but up and running again.
Because we've had our Z39 updated with our state library, but we haven't moved to Cloudflare yet. So I was just wondering if, I'm not sure. And do any of you use libkey? Because that's the one where we're kind of stuck on right now.
We have like on-site libkey servers. We don't contract or do it in the cloud or anything. So our techs are going out and changing all the authentication settings on the individual servers.
Okay. I'm just because it's not one of my branch, it's one of the other ones. So we're just waiting to hear back from Bywater on that one.
For us, all of the SIP connections worked fine. It was like the state libraries and NSIP connection, that was where one of the problems were. But for us, all of the SIP connections where you changed the .com to .io, they worked fine. It was other types of connections that were the problem.
I'd agree, it was the same thing here. The SIP connections seemed to go fairly smoothly, but it was those Z39s that tripped us up.
And some of our member libraries use libkey, and there were no issues with that either.
We have not gone yet, and we use libkey, but it's hosted by Bywater, so I'm really hoping that there aren't any problems with that.
That seems like it should work.
I'm really hoping that's not an area where we have a difficulty.
Okay, any other Cloudflare thoughts?
David is raising his hand, but I don't know if that's a mistake or what's going on there.
Oh, I thought he was clapping or something.
Oh, was it a clap? Okay.
I
thought
was
it
just
was
clapping. I was in agreement with you.
George and I are too old for reliable emoji literacy. All right. I believe that brings us into new business, where I have a bullet point that probably could have been an announcement, but let's put things in both parts of the agenda. And the new business is conference session proposals. I sent out an email extending the date for conference session proposals if you want to come to koha-US in Rhode Island. Yes. In the beginning of September, September 2 through 5, we would love to have you come talk to us about Koha stuff. Those of you who have already put in proposals, you'll probably be hearing back from me this afternoon about your proposal and whether or not it's been accepted. We've had a lot of conversation about having more like work time at this session, like small group, let's go work on a report or a jQuery thing, or like a little more hands-on stuff. And I think that is probably something we'll be exploring, and that'll be fun. But those are my deep conference thoughts. If you have been waffling on whether or not your idea is deep enough or developed enough or whatever, please feel free to send me an email or a message on Mattermost. Deadline to submit is now June 16th. That is correct. But I would be happy to talk to you about your crazy ideas and how to make them work. Because I mean, I like a crazy presentation. Let's do something weird.
Andrew, if you're having if two people are presenting, are you corresponding only with the lead or with the everybody listed?
I'll do everybody listed. We got all your email addresses. We may as well use them. Barring any other conferencey questions, which is why I'm talking slow.
So I have a question for everybody. I've been kicking around the idea of submitting a presentation proposal just on booking in general, not really anything flashy, just like here's what we do with booking. And I know that one of my colleagues did a similar presentation at the International Koha-Con. But I just was trying to gauge whether or not there'd be an appetite for that. But if you have thoughts on that, feel free to put them in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with George on that. Like we did that short demo of it here, but not everybody was here for that. I think it's still a module that people are wrapping their heads around what it could be helpful for.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to comment that yes, I think the topic is an excellent topic, especially with how it is used and how it differs from something we may have jerry-rigged in our own system to make it work. I mean, not bookings, but make the concept of bookings work. That's not bookings, that how does this module maybe help us solve that workflow issue?
That would not be my presentation. It would be a straight, here's what we do with bookings.
Well, and that could tell us what you do, can tell us, oh, we can do that instead of this. And I think that would be perfect.
Okay. Looks like Catrina asked about a presentation on the preservation module. We're not using it, so I'd be happy to see if anyone, what people are doing with that.
Yes,
I'm come up in one of my implementation meetings this week, and I was like, I don't know anybody using this module. I know we do, but they're usually our smaller museum partners. But I was just curious. That's a presentation I would love to see.
Yeah, there's somebody out there that I think like a lot of those developments were sponsored by like a library in France or something. So it sounds like they're the ones that are really heavy power users of the preservation module, but I read through it and yeah, I think somebody put a train icon in the chat because like the term that they use for sending things out is like sending them on the train or something like that.
So I guess if you're sitting in the audience and you feel like you have insight into the preservation module or interlibrary alone, if you love the way you're using interlibrary alone in Koha, these are topics people would love to hear more about.
I think it'd be great to get an update from Lizette about what work has been done on the ILL module since the last conference when she talked about ILL last year.
Yeah.
It looks like there's a bunch of stuff in 2505 on ILL, so that's encouraging.
I would also say, I think David, he already left the meeting, but he did a presentation on the electronic resources module, and that's something that we have not started using yet. We would love to, but we're kind of looking for more examples of people using it and how. So even if he just did like a repeat of that plus some extra stuff, I'd still probably be interested in seeing, basically I'd just be interested in seeing anything on the ERM module.
Yeah, I mean, Danny and David Daghita are the people I know who have played with ERM a lot. This is making me think we need some sort of mechanism for a session to see all the less commonly used bits. Who uses the patron card printer that nobody thinks about? And can they show it to us? Yeah, there's a lot of Elasticsearch stuff to talk about. Like I would love to hear from a library that has really put some time and thought into their Elastic mappings and customize those in some way. Because it's super customizable and we've also sort of figured it works well enough for the most part.
Andrew, I agree with what you said. I'm a visual learner, so or doing learner. So having someone do sessions on demonstrating how something works or how they use it, I think could be tremendously beneficial. More than just a professor standing up at the front of the class and lecturing us on it, actually showing us how it's used and how they use it and what it's used for, kind of in live mode as opposed to just presentation slides, maybe.
Yeah.
I think the kind of tricky thing for, at least for ours, is like a lot of times we're like, well, we can't show you on our live instance because this is being recorded and it's patron data.
Yeah.
So like if we could set up, I think that, so I think maybe like looking at something in a sandbox or something, but then you're like, I don't have all my, so that, I think that's historically, like at least last year, that was why I defaulted to screenshots.
Yeah.
The koha-US demo server would be a great thing to do that kind of stuff on. And I think I'm a system administrator on that. And I know Christopher is. So if you want to get access to that, you can contact me, George@NEKLS.org, and I can make sure that you're in there. And that goes for anybody that wants to use a safe environment to do live demoing at the conference. That being said, if somebody wants to say, this is how we do things in Elasticsearch, and somebody else wants to do, this is how we use Zebra, that's not going to be doable. Both of the, well, one of those is going to have to go. It's going to have to be done in such a way that you can't completely set up the system in a way that makes it impossible for others to do the demonstration. But we can accommodate that on the koha-US demo server.
Think we're moving into open time.
Well, actually, I was going to say I have an update non-update about the governance, the Koha Foundation, Koha Charitable Foundation. there has been an issue since the Hackfest in Marseille, when some of the people met at the Hackfest, and then we didn't have a meeting in March, and then the meeting in April didn't get on anybody's calendar, and so we didn't have a meeting in April, and then we didn't have a meeting in May for essentially the same reason. Is everybody seems to be confused about when we're meeting, and I'm hoping that that gets fixed by the next time around. But that's my non-update about the Koha Charitable Foundation, is there has really been nothing done because of a lack of meetings. So I just wanted to make sure that that got in there.
Well, thank you for definitively confirming the lack of update.
That being said, they could have met without me, and they're just like doing everything and saying, like, keep him out of it. He's not contributing anything useful. So as far as I know, nothing's happened.
Doesn't sound like you. But,
And it doesn't sound like the other people in this group either, you know.
Okay, second attempt. Now I think we're in open time. And somebody put a bug there. I suspect it was Christopher Brandon because he filed the bug in the first place. But
No, it was
you
me. I
yourself.
put it there. I was elevating Christopher's reporting work. I think this is something that it looked like it had been resolved, but then reared its head again in 2411. And it has to do with, as I understand it, like when you're trying to clear your holds waiting longer than 7 days, it will sometimes revert to just the holds waiting tab. And I think if people can have read this and are very familiar with this, perhaps Christopher, if I've misunderstood it, let me know.
Can you repost the
Yeah,
bug number?
sorry.
Because I missed that.
Here it comes.
I have to refresh my memory on it.
Oh, yeah, that's annoying.
So this mentions Brendan posted back in March that he was saying that he's seeing the issue when he's canceling a hold from the button in the actions column. We have that column turned off, but I think we might still be seeing a similar issue just when doing cancel selected.
It's very possible. I mean, developers tend to overlook the tabs when they're refreshing the page.
Just tested on 241103, which is the current build for all Bywater partners, and I'm not seeing that. It stays on the hold waiting past their expiration tab. It doesn't go to the other holds waiting tab.
Okay. That's interesting. It was pushed to 2411 to 2411. So yeah, if anyone knows more about what might still be the open issue here, the reason why I posted it is because we are having issues where our branch staff are telling us that they know that they have the holds waiting over 7 days tab opened, they hit cancel, and then somehow the holds waiting for pickup list has been cleared. And
Are you on 241105?
We are
I'm on 03.
We are on 241103 as well.
Yeah, so it's coming.
Yeah. But I think where my issue is I'm still not sure whether this bug is a factor or if something else is going on. And I was just kind of posting it in the open discussion section to see if other people had run into this or were getting similar reports.
even though I filed the bug, I spend very little time on that page. My recommendation would be try a sandbox and see if you're seeing that symptom.
So
and go from there.
Christy, you said that your staff click the cancel button and then it clears out their holds awaiting pickup?
That's what they are saying is happening. So I don't know if it is because the screen refreshes and goes to that tab and inadvertently, you know, they're like, this didn't work, I will do it again. And by that point,
yeah,
they're selecting from a different page, or if something else has happened, because I'm getting these reports after it has already happened and I can't go back and figure out what steps were taken. So, but it is, you know, we've had like a couple of reports, so it's enough that I'm really trying to figure out what's going on. And my next step was see if anyone else has seen it. It doesn't sound like that's the case. So I'll keep looking.
Anybody else have difficulties or victories they've been dying to talk about?
I will point out something that I've learned. It's Koha and Aspen related, in that, so in the minutia of permissions with Aspen, I've learned that even though if you tell Koha that you don't want patrons to have permissions to, I'm trying to remember how this goes. There are certain permissions that if you set it so that patrons don't have access to it, I think it's with modifying their account information. Not everything is one-to-one with Aspen. Aspen disregards certain settings, and I'll have to look it up. But we had an issue where we were trying to prevent, it was the home library. We were trying to prevent patrons from changing their home library. It's tied to a lot of resources, and they're changing it for pickup location purposes. And with the regular Koha OPAC, that's just all together. And so we've had to block that, but even blocking that in Koha, patrons are still able to change their home library. So not all the permissions are tied the same way in Aspen as they are in Koha, which is a little frustrating. We didn't know that going out. I was able to, I noticed that with Aspen, we were able to set it up so that they could set up their default pickup location and not affect their home library, which is really nice. And I'm trying to replicate that with borrower attributes and a little bit of jQuery to try and mimic that for the classic catalog and for staff, because I know staff will touch things that they shouldn't too. But just thought I'd throw that out there for any of you using Aspen.
It's an interesting like conceptual point, because it like inserting Aspen really kind of changes the structure from Koha's perspective. Like when you're doing stuff in the Koha OPAC, you have permissions and system preferences that determine what the patron is allowed to do. But then when you're sending your patrons to Aspen instead, Aspen is, from Koha's perspective, sort of another staff member. Your patrons are asking Aspen to do things, and then Aspen is doing those things in Koha based on the permissions that the Aspen API user has. And mostly you're then in the Aspen settings governing what your patrons are allowed to ask the Aspen user to do in Koha. So it's a conceptual shift that I have similarly been caught out on before.
So I guess the way that I heard what you're saying is that Aspen Discovery doesn't respect this system preference, patron self-modification borrower unwanted field. Does that kind of sum it up?
I think I'd have to go back and look at my emails for the specifics on it, but there are some aspects. It's like, yeah, you tell Koha not to let patrons do that, but Aspen will let them do that.
Right. I think that's the system preference. And so I can see where that would be an issue. It's almost like it'd be nice if there was a way to tell that system preference, or to have another system preference that says this is blocked from changes by the API.
Yeah.
It's almost like we need another set of system preferences for these things that Koha was doing this, and these affect the Koha OPAC, these affect the Koha staff interface, and these other things affect the API. And that's kind of what would need to happen there. And then it would be nice if there was a way to say, copy the things from the Koha OPAC settings to the Koha API settings. That would certainly solve the problem. So, but I hear exactly what you're saying. So.
For my emails to see if that specific setting was mentioned.
That question of, will this Koha system preference or setting or whatever be reflected in Aspen, or do I have to also set it in Aspen, is one that I just really, really have not managed to keep straight in my head, because I think most things in Aspen don't follow the Koha system preferences. If the Koha system preference says it's about the OPAC, you're safest assuming it's just the Koha OPAC. But then there are a few that do, where Aspen does listen to Koha, and I've not built that mental map yet. We have 11 minutes left in our meeting. 11 minutes in which to pack all of the fun. Jason has shared a bug about table configuration.
Yeah, this has come up in different SIGs, and it's a hard thing to replicate, but I finally got a screenshot of it in my testing Docker, so I went ahead and entered a bug. It seems like when you have save states enabled on certain tables, it will break the columns and like make them look junky like in my screenshot. So I just turned off the save state on all the tables where it's showing up, but that kind of eliminates the usage of that feature. So
this is the feature that if you are in Koha looking at a table and you have told it to hide some columns and show some other columns, you can tell Koha to remember those choices when you like reload that page.
Right, yeah.
And it goes weird apparently.
It's been behaving weirdly for us since it started.
The home library change is not moderated through Aspen system.
Yes, that was the specific.
Oh, Aspen allowed them to change it without making it a modification request.
Right.
Yeah. That makes a weird sort of sense. Like I could see how it would happen, not why it would be desirable. Doesn't sound like anybody's really had time yet to pour over the 2505 release notes.
Oh, I looked a little. I'm excited about multi-selects in reports
That's pretty
because it got changed to select 2, so it's so much nicer to use.
I'll say I read through it a little bit. I wasn't seeing anything major, and I think there are only like 5 features, which makes me sort of optimistic that this was a release that was kind of more like nuts and bolts fixes, and I know that was an issue that Christopher had kind of hoped that every once in a while there'd be like a Jubilee release where it's just back to basics, and then maybe this is kind of one of those. I don't know, just speculating.
Well, you'll see like there's a bug in there with the title "Tidy the whole code base," which is kind of a like pervasive thing to be one bug number.
Hey, Carlos.
Well, I'm also excited. I noticed that there are a couple of places where the API is getting used to load tables now. So the suggestions page, which is notoriously slow and the holds history, I think.
Yeah.
So we're excited for changes like that, because waiting for those pages to load, especially when we've got so much data in there and we're so big, can take quite a while.
Yeah.
Ashley, do you want to explain your chat item?
We're experiencing Ashley's thing too.
Okay.
Yeah, our indexing broke yesterday. It seems to be working this morning. It seemed like something big broke, but I don't know.
We've been experiencing it off and on. We've had reports and then things clear up, and we've had reports and things clear up. Something keeps breaking, it seems like. And this has happened since the last upgrade.
Well, now I'm worried. What a way to close out the meeting on a big bummer like this. Now I got to go check. I got to go check, and I got to find my bottle of Rolaids or Tums or whatever I got. So.
Well, as of this morning, our cataloger said she tried a few and they are working, but I don't know if something was fixed. I'm not sure. So it was happening with any records we were importing. That's what we first saw. But then also even attaching any item to a record, we thought we did it. And then you'd go back and check and it was gone. Batch deletion, they weren't really deleting. And any temporary ILL records you would add were also not really being added.
Yeah, I just went back to my ticket that I opened with Bywater yesterday, and all the examples I sent them are searching now. So I'm guessing that they fixed whatever was broken.
Ashley, when you say those items and titles weren't getting added, did they exist in the database? Like if you used SQL to find that bib number, was it there?
Oh, I didn't go that far to look into it.
And that would be my guess, that those things are getting created, but the search indexing is failing on them. So Koha knows they exist, but Elastic doesn't know they exist.
Yeah, we were noticing that, we couldn't find them, the records in any traditional way, and I think they were having to find it through really obscure means in order to get to the record.
Which is still an issue that needs to be solved, but the good news is that that data is in there.
Yeah.
We just need to make it findable.
That's what I'm understanding, is that was the problem. But I don't understand how the deletion of items was also being tied to that. Like how it wasn't actually deleting the items, it showed deleted.
What it does is it'll like they're gone, but when you go to the search results, they're still there because the index hasn't updated yet. Like they actually are gone. And if you did a direct link to that record, it wouldn't take you there, or it wouldn't be on the record if the item was deleted, but the record stayed. It was entirely the indexing, I think.
Yeah.
So the report that I just popped into the chat box is the SQL I use to show me what are the last 50 things that were added to Koha. What are the last 50 biblios? And so I just ran that, and then I did a search for a couple of the authors and a search for a couple of the titles, and I'm getting those search results. So I know that they're in the database, and I know that they're searchable. So I don't think I'm experiencing this problem at the moment, but there is a reason I created this report. This is something that has happened in the past. So most notably at 4:45 in the afternoon on a Friday afternoon before a 3-day weekend, and I spent like 2 hours on the phone with Larry. So that's how long ago it was. It was, 2016 or so. So.
I don't have good guesses as to what would have made your Elasticsearch not index these things properly. Currently, bots are a really good answer. I was overwhelmed with bots. But
Isn't there is there a separate, I noticed on the status page for Bywater, isn't there like a separate server that all runs through or something?
Yes. As far as I know, it didn't have any problems yesterday. But again, I'm not hanging out in the systems channel.
I'm willing to blame all our problems on bots because they're not real people and they can't hate us.
They're not here.
Where would I find the release notes for the new release? I can't find. I
put a link to them in the agenda. I made
Oh,
that
okay.
2505 released a link, but also here I will put that same link. No, Catrina will put that same link in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd just like to know what's coming and be prepared. Great, got them up. Thank you.
I'm excited about these two. Being able to put notes on everything in the patron account table and being able to manually generate an email receipt to somebody. But that is kind of indicative of this release that that's the big feature I'm so excited about. It's kind of more nuts and boltsy.
That's totally worth getting excited about.
It's super cool, but it's not it's not going to change your whole library.
No, but it's going to stop 2 or 3 people from complaining to me over and over and over again for the last 5 years.
And sometimes you got to work on those 2 to 3 people. Okay, speaking of complainers who whine for years at a time, I think we finished our meeting. There was no segue there. I just had to end the meeting somehow. So yeah, thanks for coming to our meeting. We have the conference planning meeting shortly over in another Zoom. I'll see any interested parties over there.
See you in a bit.
I'll see you in July.
See you later, everybody.